Well, it's time to continue the months of nightmares with that freak in a fedora that is known for having one glove and a thing for young kids. Really? Hit the button. Let's get started. Hey there, hi there, ho there. Andrew here, the horror host of Generations X, Y, and Z inside Davis Manor. And yes, we are continuing A Nightmare on Elm Street here with A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master, and with the entire franchise. A big shout out goes to Cameron Lutz. Yes, he is the provider of this film, as well as the entire franchise. And you too can go ahead and get a shout out by giving me a movie that you would want to have me review. All you have to do is send it to the P.O. box that's in the description down below. You don't have to send one to me. If you want to send one to me, fine. Just make sure it's a standard DVD. I don't need a collector's edition. I don't need an entire franchise as well. Just one film. Just tell me why, send it to me and tell me why you want that movie, what it meant to you, all that other stuff. It'll be great to go ahead and give you a shout out. And speaking of shout outs, let me give a shout out to the patrons of the channel here. That's right. These people right here, all these patrons are pledging their support. And if you like the channel and you want to see it grow, then click the link above or at the end of the video or at the link of the description. And over there, you will find there are a whole bunch of different rewards you can get for signing up in different tiers. Things like some swag, like a Blitzbolt shirt, and other stuff as well. But more importantly, you'll also see the goals that we are trying to reach, all the other things that we are trying to do for the channel, and the things that we have done in the past for the channel as well, like the website. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, let me pause for self-promotion. You can go ahead and check out that website. It is the letter U-F-N and the word rock, ufnrock.com. Why? I created that website for you because you effing rock. That is all to the viewers, the subscribers, the people that are watching right now, like you. Don't tell anybody, but I did it for you. So with that, let me go on. Let's get into A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master is a Rennie Harlan film with William Kotzwinkle and Brian Helgeland coming up with the story, and Brian Helgeland and Scott Pierce doing the screenplay. I love the fact that the name that I could pronounce the best out of all of them was Scott Pierce, and Scott Pierce doesn't exist because Scott Pierce is a pseudonym for Jim and Ken Wheat. It's never a good sign when people don't want to put their names on a project. If you don't believe me, look up and see how many movies Alan Smithee has directed. It's shocking. A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 follows up where the previous Nightmare left off just 1 year later in the year 1988. And this time, Freddy Krueger is resurrected from his certain defeat in the previous film to once again unleash terror to the remaining Dream Warriors. But this time he realizes a way to expand past the surviving Elm Street children to a new group of teenagers. Now, I have mentioned before that I felt that the Dream Warriors movie was the definitive film to end the entire series. I'm going to say that most people probably thought that too, including the people that made this film. Because how did we bring back Freddy?
Jason.
Yeah, a dog doing his business, and at least the dog's name is Jason, but it makes no sense whatsoever why a dog would do what it did, and that would resurrect Freddy Krueger? It made no sense to me until I found out this information, and that was that the director Harlan and some of the producers of the Nightmare on Elm Street movie met up with James Cameron. And James Cameron, in a sarcastic way, inquired how were they going to bring back Freddy Krueger for this film. And Harlan, who didn't have an answer because the script wasn't written completely yet, answered back in a very flippant type of way that a dog was going to urinate fire and bring him back to life. Talk about painting yourself into a corner. And speaking of directors, New Line wanted Wes Craven to come back and direct and rewrite the script, but Craven wanted Dream Warriors to be the ending of the series. It was the reason why he came back to Dream Warriors, so he opted out. However, Craven does get a cameo in the fact that the diner where the new protagonist Alice works is called the Crave Inn. Oh, subtle. Anyways, speaking of the new protagonist, long and short of this film is this. It's a passing of the torch film. That's all it is. This is a film where we get to see the survivors of the previous film come back into this film, get killed off, and then there's a new cast that emerges. Except for Patricia Arquette. She doesn't come back, even though her character, Kristen Parker, lives. We get a new actor by the name of Tuesday Knight that plays Kristen. And I have to say that I really do feel sorry for Tuesday Knight in this film. I mean, there is really no connection whatsoever between her and the actors that played Roland and Joey. It didn't jive together. Plus, she couldn't deliver the emotional attachment that the audience had for Patricia Arquette's Kristen because they watched an entire movie of Patricia Arquette and the growth that she had as Kristen. And just as soon as we get used to Tuesday, poof, she's gone. And I do have a beef whenever we see a horror movie, bring back actors from the previous movie just to go ahead and kill them off to pass the story along to another group of characters. To me, it's cheap. It's lazy. It's cheap and lazy writing is basically what it is. And we've seen it across the board. We've seen it with Adrienne King in Friday the 13th 2. We saw it with Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween Resurrection, which apparently doesn't exist anymore, but it still happened. And Jay Hernandez, who played Paxton, I believe it was. Well, yeah, it was Paxton. And Hostel 2, he was in Hostel 1. And then Ellie Cornell, who played Rachel Carruthers, one of my favorites when it came to some of the Survivor girls, in Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. So, yeah, let me throw this here about Ellie Cornell. Side note, Ellie Cornell auditioned for the role of Alice, who is the protagonist in this film, but she ended up being in Halloween 4, The Revenge of Michael Myers, which happened to be released the same year as this movie. And as far as characters go, I feel that this movie had some of the weakest characters in the franchise, really. There was a good amount of characters for all of us to know, but we really didn't care. We didn't empathize. We didn't sympathize. We couldn't relate to them. And if you cannot do that in some way, then you just don't care if they die or not. I mean, Kincaid and Joey's deaths were established 20 and 25 minutes, respectively, into the movie. They were characters we cared about. We spent an entire movie watching their growth as characters. We were invested. Then Kristen, who the audience is trying to get used to, she gets knocked out like before 40 minutes, almost at the 40-minute mark. So that leaves just under an hour for the audience to change gears and start to root for a whole new group of people and a new protagonist. And I'm not sure why we had to see Nancy and Donald Thompson's headstone in the same shot as Kincaid and Kristen's during the funeral scenes, but hey, I guess we needed to be reminded that all of these people knew each other, and they were all from the same town, and they're all dead now. And I will get back to another funeral scene in a moment, but I want to talk about the special effects in this movie. First off, practical effects, bar none, absolutely spot on. I really enjoyed the special effects in this one. And when I'm talking about the special effects, I'm talking about the practical special effects. Freddy's makeup in the third movie and in this movie are the most iconic of Freddy's burn scars. If you watch the different movies, he has different kind of scars as each movie goes because you have different special effects team and they're doing different things with his face. But this movie and the third movie are the most iconic looks out of all of them. And when it comes to the practical effects like Freddy's chest of souls or the meatball pizza or Debbie's arms that are cockroach arms now, even the beach shark, the Freddy beach shark scene with the glove, that was cool too. All of them were impressive, especially for 1988 standards. And you can tell that a good amount of the budget went into this movie via the special effects. However, this also hurt the plot and story. For example, Andres Jones, I think it's Andres, he played the character Rick. He was originally supposed to die with Freddy using Rick's fear of elevators. The elevator was supposed to go up, down, all around the place, bouncing Rick all over, and then go out of control completely by breaking apart and Rick falling into the nothingness of space. How that kills somebody, I don't know. But the budget was spent, and it couldn't be shot. So Rick was going to go ahead and survive with Alice. Lucky Rick. But they already filmed his funeral scene, which is probably one of the most cringeworthy scenes in the entire movie. I mean, it was just weird. I didn't feel right watching. But you can't, you just can't throw good celluloid like that out. They got a budget. They already filmed it. Throw it in. It's a wrap. So, without actually having a budget left, they had to kill Rick some other way. So, since they established that Rick was really into karate, they decided to go ahead and have Rick fight an invisible Freddy and a floating glove. Now, if you want to know what it looked like something like this. And then he spots the glove. Yeah, it was a lame death. Transitioning from characters to the actors that played them, truthfully, I'm going to say this. I found the acting in this movie pretty hard to watch. The characters weren't believable, so therefore the actors had a real hard time to convey anything to the screen. Alice had the most character development on the screen, so I feel that Lisa Wilcox shined in the movie. Robert Englund had basically lost all of the original scary boogeyman of your nightmares feel to a now cartoon one-liner that kills people. I would have liked to have seen Freddy in a scarier playing cat and mouse with his victims type of style. Something that actually Jackie Earle Haley tried to get across in the reboot back in 2010, but that's another video to discuss, so we'll continue. Director Harlan, who cameos as one of the students in the high school, uncredited of course, utilizes his director of photography, Steven Fierberg, I think that's his name, it's a pretty good name for a movie like this, at maximum. The shots are blocked really well, the color saturation is great, and I'm not just talking about the lighting through the stained glass in the church at the end, I'm talking throughout the movie. The color enhances the feel of almost every scene. It is beautifully done. And speaking of Harlan doing a cameo as a student, Robert Shea, who is the main producer of the entire franchise and the CEO of New Line Cinema, once again fits into a cameo into this movie as one of the teachers, but he's not credited as Robert Shea. No, he is credited as L.E. Moko? L.E. Moko? What does that even mean, L.E. Moko? The only time I've ever heard of L.E. Moko was there's this French poetic realism movie from the 30s. That's before film noir took place, really. It's kind of a predecessor of it. It's about a guy named Pepe Le Moko. Okay, and Pepe is a gangster, and Le Moko is a slang term, a French slang term, for a man from Toulon, France. So Pepe Le Moko meant Pepe the Man, which means that Robert Shea called himself the man in the credits. Oh, that takes chutzpah, man. And you will not find that type of trivia in IMDb or Wikipedia or anything else. That comes from me. I am just dropping knowledge on you like crazy. If you find that anywhere else, it's because they watched it here and they typed it somewhere else. I gotta get another hobby. So how do I rate this movie? I'm gonna say it's pretty solid, actually. It's not the best Nightmare, but it's not the worst one either. And I can appreciate the fact that they wanted to go into a new direction and create a new protagonist to Freddy. But I felt that the character of Kristen Parker would have been an excellent fit. It is someone who can control portals to dreams and go against Mr. Nightmare himself. That would have been nice to see in new flicks, but they chose to go a different route. The visuals are really the highlight of this film, and the writing and the acting unfortunately take a back seat. It's kind of a middle of the road in most people's rankings when it comes to the franchise, but it's still worth to watch if you haven't seen it. And if you are a Freddy fan, then yeah, this is something to be in your library. But if you are a fan of 1980s horror, you probably have better choices, especially when it comes to horror movies in 1988. What do you mean by that? Well, I'm going to say this. 1988 was the awesome year for horror movies. If you don't know, here's a list of some of them. Return of the Living Dead. And if you haven't watched it, let me pause for self-promotion. You can go ahead and watch my review of that movie. You also have The Blob, Child's Play, Chucky's origin story. You have Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and mind you, Child's Play, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, going to be at Halloween Horror Nights this year. If you don't have any idea what Halloween Horror Nights is, look around in my channel. I'm going to be dropping a lot of knowledge with that coming up. I've been a scare actor in previous years. It's pretty cool. Anyways, Chucky and the clowns are going to be there. Also, 1988, They Live. Oh, man. Rowdy Roddy Piper, Keith David, and The Fight That Never Ends. That is an awesome movie. Also, what I had mentioned earlier, Halloween 4 came out in 1988. So there are a lot of good ones, and ones that I could keep on going on and on, but I'm going to wrap this video up. So my question to you is, what was your favorite 1988 horror movie? And if you can't think of one from 88, then what was your favorite 1980s horror movie? Go ahead and leave a comment down below. And as always, thank you for all your likes, your comments, your shares, and your subscribes. Subscriptions? I don't know what that means. But if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And also hit that bell icon so you get notified the moment that I upload. And I will see you in the next video.